All right, let's get started. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rachel, and I am the marketing manager for Asia Pacific here at Acquia. So, today's presentation is called Overwhelmed with Data from Different Sources. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. So, if you have questions for us, we are saving some time at the end. So, please be sure to use the Q&A or chat windows to submit your questions, and we'll bring them up at the end. This presentation is being recorded and we will share it with you at the end of the session. So we have with us today, Phil Cook, our Marketing Cloud Director for Asia Pacific. Phil has over 2 decades of experience working with global businesses, helping them leverage digital technology to grow revenue, reduce costs, and drive customer engagement. He is passionate about making organizations more customer and data-centric through embedding data-driven personalization, experimentation, and human-centered design. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Phil. Right, Phil, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you everybody today for joining us on this webinar. It's great to have everybody here, and really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and listen to us talking around CDP. Now, as some of you will know, this is the third part of our series on CDP. The previous couple of parts have been presented by my colleague Tony Peters. I'll be picking up today's webinar and look forward to a really engaging discussion and conversation. So as Rachel mentioned earlier, if you have comments, if you have questions or suggestions, please do let us know in the chat window. We're really looking forward to that. So today, without further ado, I'll kick it off. Look, today we're going to be working on, a challenge that a lot of organizations have, which is around just the sheer quantity of data that they have and the fragmentation of that data across different systems. So we'll work through really the first steps in building a practical customer data integration plan and strategy, moving through to how to unify all your data from different sources to build up a robust 360 view of the customer. And as part of that conversation, we'll be delving into what identity resolution is, what it means, and why that's important. And then finally, really how to strategically and effectively deliver relevant and useful experiences based on customer data at scale. So we have had positive feedbacks on the webinars to date. We will at the end of this webinar also be providing the ability for you to feedback via a quick survey. So we'd really appreciate your input into that so we can continue to improve our webinars as we go forward. I thought I'd kick off today with, focusing on one of today's key business challenges. And, this is from Forbes, and it says that, nearly 90% of executives surveyed are actually not confident that they're leveraging the full part of the data they already have. So essentially, executives are struggling to manage their data effectively, and what this means is it prevents them from achieving their business potential. So businesses are becoming increasingly complex, we all know that, and the way I look at that is if there's one superpower that I believe every business would like to have in their arsenal, it would be the ability to leverage customer interactions effectively to inform customer conversations and build customer empathy. And that's whether that be through online, offline, automated, or in-person communications. So moving forward, if you can't do that, what's the knock-on effect? So what we see here, and I think Tony referenced this in one of his earlier webinars, but today's organizations are struggling to deliver the experiences that their customers expect, and today's customer actually has very, very high expectations. So when your customer's looking to book somewhere to stay, they're wanting an Airbnb style experience. When they're searching for a mobile device, they expect an Apple or Samsung experience. And when they book a ride somewhere, rideshare, they're looking for an Uber experience. Finally, when they're kind of looking at entertainment, they're looking at Netflix. So all of these companies have set the expectations very, very high. And we know that poor customer experience leads to reduced revenue. It leads to poor conversion and ultimately leads to low customer satisfaction. So to combat this, organizations first need to understand what and how data needs to be ingested into their customer data platform and also how to effectively use a customer data platform. So, these disconnected systems that we've all grown up with through nobody's wanted to end up in this position, but, whether it be through, organic growth, whether it be through acquisition, whether it be through, different investments at different times or, different challenges technically, it's actually harder than ever to build a unified view of the customer. So, in this example, you see some different systems. There are potentially some limited integrations between, for example, POS, inventory and BI systems. But there isn't really a unified structure or strategy around the data. And then it becomes increasingly impossible to accurately understand the size, the size of your customer database, what your customers' interactions are, and how to engage with your customers effectively. So in contrast to that, we're looking to how we can build a connected ecosystem and what that actually means. And what we need to consider is how do we actually turn a fragmented and siloed customer data architecture into a connected ecosystem. So if we look at Apple as an example, what they did incredibly well, in my opinion, and incredibly early, is to understand the value of a connected ecosystem across, their hardware, across their devices, across their apps, and across their customer experiences. And before there was iTunes and before there was the Apple Store and before there was Google Play, the concept of us having that kind of relationship with a hardware provider was actually, nothing that I think any of us had considered, say, before the iPhone came out. So the early understanding of the value of the connected ecosystem was really critical to propelling Apple to being one of the most valuable companies in the world today. And what this means from a customer end, if you do build up this connected ecosystem, is the ability to create these seamless experiences that we ourselves all enjoy. Those kind of experiences that understand us, that make it easy for us, that provide those surprise and delight moments through anticipating our needs, for example, and also experiences that show empathy and understanding. And the key here is to understanding customer behavior, sentiment, and intent. And to do this properly, you need to be able to overlay data from every customer interaction across every touch point. And this is an example sort of end-to-end, from awareness to advocacy of a customer journey, where a customer might start with searching for a particular item of clothing or a garment, and then they will express their interest and through personalization receive an in-store recommendation. And as they go through their customer life cycle, at every stage, the system's learning about that customer, and the system's actually understanding what that customer enjoys and providing those relevant experiences. Now, as Tony touched on in one of his earlier presentations, most organizations have some challenges in the space, and so they have things like different channels of engagement. It might be email, it might be website, it might be mobile apps, call centers, and they have different systems. So POS and e-commerce systems, they have CRM systems, they have different types of systems, and to achieve what they want in terms of a marketing capacity, they often create integrations between these systems. So from the systems to the activation channels, so call centers, again, outbound marketing or digital advertising. Maintenance of this approach is costly. Security can be a challenge, and governance can be increasingly complex. And ultimately, per the previous slide, it actually creates a fragmented customer experience. So conversely, with the CDP, and I think you can already see that just looking at that, the architecture is significantly simpler. But with a customer data platform, you can drive customer engagement based on really a full 360 view of customer interactions. And some of the examples here, if we bring it to life, will be, for example, marketeers can promote or restrict digital advertising to customers at different stages of the customer life cycle. So this might mean, for example, if somebody's a customer versus a prospect, you wouldn't be targeting, people who are already your customers with special offers to sign up to become your customers. That happens a lot. You can also build targeted offers based on customers' recent purchases, their online behavior, and other aspects like their credit rating, for example, or the profile into which their segment they belong, or even their physical location. And again, to do this, you really need an intelligent customer data platform at its core, with the ability to leverage first and second and third-party data. So with that said, moving forward and talking about how to actually get started, I think the first thing which is most important is you have to be realistic about your organization's level of digital maturity, and the advice here is to start small. So every organization will be different, but the goal is to start small with some achievable and measurable and easy to understand use cases, and particularly those use cases that will resonate with cross-functional stakeholders. So for example, if you're representing a digital team or technology team or marketing team, we understand that bringing on a CDP or starting to think about data more holistically is a cross-functional exercise. It will never be siloed within one of those functional areas. So it's important to start thinking, okay, what will actually resonate with the business? What will they understand? How can I get to communicate the value of these small first steps? So choosing use cases which are easy to implement is important. So look at the data sources. Obviously, those sources of data which are cleaner and which are more structured will probably lend themselves to a more successful implementation, and also the ones which deliver the most value first. So look for those large pools of value. And to be honest, most organizations have data coming out of their ears, and they have large pools of data. So there is a lot of opportunity here to actually get to build some value from that data. So you should be focusing on the low-hanging fruit, so which is easy and which provide the most value. Look at what you've got coming in the next 6 months. What can you pilot? Pick a couple of data sources that you already have APIs against, or that you can get a data dump from, and then just think about the execution channel. So you don't have to go hard out with all the execution channels at once. Just pick a couple. So it could be web, it could be mobile app, it could be call center, and just prove the value on a couple of the use cases. And these can be things like, for example, some of the simpler ones are many of our clients start their engagement with straightforward outbound marketing use cases. So, for example, looking at how can you dramatically improve email open and click rates? What's the role of trigger campaigns and engagement from DM? And then you can move forward into more complex use cases like, how can you increase revenue by understand propensity to discount offers? So instead of sending out blanket discounts of say 40% across all of your range to all of your customers, look at which customers respond to which types of offers and which types of percentage discounts and why, and try and build a use case around that. Or, for example, can you improve product recommendations in your mobile app? So if you have a mobile app which has some products available or can start some buy journeys from the mobile app, how can you use better use of data and better CDP to actually present much more relevant offers in the mobile app experience? So the reminder here is that it's not limited to digital channels. It's also, in-store and voice and call center as well. So CDP, by its default, it uses digital technology, but it makes the data available across every channel. And finally, I guess, as you move through to the advanced use cases, you look at things like dynamic personalization and in-store traffic capture. But again, the key for a lot of organizations here, particularly those who are just starting out in that space, is to start small and choose some simple use cases. The other thing I think that's important to think about when considering using customer data platforms is think about the use cases across your total customer lifecycle and not just acquisition. So a lot of us think about, okay, well, if we have better data, we can target promotions more effectively and bring new customers in. But actually, the real value in a CDP is to maximize the lifetime value of your customer, and that's through obviously acquiring more customers, but also engaging customers once they've been onboarded and growing the revenue. So during acquisition, you can use CDP to acquire customers at a lower cost, and this frees up advertising budget for new campaigns or for other activities. But once customers are onboarded, you can increase engagement and develop personalized experiences. So that leads to advocacy, and it leads to improved customer satisfaction. And we all know that's the battleground of today. And then finally, when you're looking to grow revenue, customer data platform can be very, very effective to help target offers to your customer base to maximize the profitability and revenue. So some examples of use cases in each of these categories is, and these is by no means a definitive list, but looking through acquisition, digital advertising, so you can display retargeting optimization by suppressing offline buyers, so people that are purchasing in store that you want to suppress ads to them because that they're in-store customers. That's an opportunity. Looking at building out more valuable audiences and segments for your Google and Facebook retargeting on Instagram, and doing things like acquiring customers, like selecting best customers to target offers to. So there are opportunities within acquisition. In terms of engagement, this is really using CDP to build that 360 view of the customer to deliver those personalized experiences. So for example, if you're in a service business and your customers at a certain stage of their contract lifecycle and utilities, for example, what's an appropriate offer and what's an appropriate experience for them at that stage of their contract. There's things like web personalization. A/B testing is critically important. So using the segments to test, for example, pricing, or to test delivery options, delivery policy, as an example here. And then finally, really growing revenue. So this is all around, targeting offers to customize to maximize margin. So again, looking at things like, looking at the next best activity, using CDP to target accessories or to target customers who are likely to buy this type of product or that type of product is a good example of some of the use cases that you can start to experiment with in terms of implementing CDP. So now they have an idea around, how CDP works at a high level. I'd just like to deep dive into, how do you bring this all together, and what does it mean, and what are the mechanics of delivery. We'll also talk through why identity resolution is important, and how that helps to drive business outcomes. So we know that there's a lot of data out there, and these are just some of the examples of data that we have ingested into CDP for various customers. There are everything from the very, very common platforms, digital platforms like Google, Facebook, etc. Other very common CRM and associated platforms like Salesforce. But essentially any data can be ingested to CDP depending on the customer's requirements. And there's a number of ways that we do that. So essentially there are our web tags which will sit on your website, which will collect real-time data from your site, and that will be fed straight into the CDP. There are tracker APIs which are available, which send data via a REST API. Data feeds can be delivered with a bulk delivery via CSV files or in other formats, cloud-hosted buckets like S3, Google, and Azure. And there are a range of standardized connectors which are pre-built. So these are the popular services, as I mentioned there, like Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, Customer 360, Google Analytics, and of course our own Acquia personalization and Acquia campaign studio platforms. So what this looks like, I guess, from an architectural perspective in terms of the data inputs, data sources, and data activation channels, is that each of the data sources will be ingested into CDP in the most effective way possible. The customer data platform has a role to play here, which we'll go into a little bit in detail shortly. But identity resolution, which is understanding really which customer is which, and building a profile around that customer, machine learning, and next best action. So once that's done, then the data is made available. The cleansed and enriched data is made available to activation channels. So, again, through to, could be things like Facebook or Acquia personalization, but it could also be through to things like, Salesforce Marketing Cloud or Genesis or other systems which are serving a specific purpose, like next best action, for example. So in terms of what this means for the view of the customer. So I talked earlier around building a single view of the customer, or often referred to as 360 customer profile. So, traditionally each siloed interaction, you can see a number here down the left-hand side. So each siloed interaction will be counted as a separate transaction and essentially a separate customer record. And identity resolution works by reconciling all those available data points, which include those collected by first, second, third parties. And then building a composite journey that provides marketers with their 360 view of the customer's identity and user journey. So if we look at this chart, we can see that in this example, this Kate or Catherine has had a number of interactions with the organization. So for example, they may have a credit card purchase initially in store. They may then go to a website, have a mobile guest checkout. They may also at some point have another purchase and take out a new loyalty card, and then they may call the call center, et cetera, et cetera. And what you can see here is that, for example, in their mobile guest checkout, they might use a different email address than when they sign up for a loyalty card. And without understanding, when one customer starts and when one customer stops, it's very, very difficult to build up a holistic view. So what identity resolution does is it actually it combines those records. It understands that this single customer is actually one person, and it understands that they're, for example, they have 4 lifetime transactions of a total dollar value of $190 when their last transaction was, and all the events. So it really puts the customer at the center of the data schema, and it gives marketeers the ability to actually understand a lot more about this individual and make some intelligent decisions to inform their strategy. So how the identity resolution works, and again, it will be a quite quick overview, but this is a more detailed picture of how we cleanse and dedupe and stitch and enhance the data and bring all the data together to create that single customer view. So firstly, it's important to standardize the data. So we have our standardized data schema within our customer data platform, and of course there may need to be some data transformation either at the customer end or at our end to get data in the right format. But this will be things like name passing, standardizing of addresses, and also validations of things like phone number formats and email validations, and then moving through to the cleansing and enhancing of that data. So cleansing the data, we can do things, enhancements in terms of like mapping distance to stores based on addresses. We can assume gender. We can also overlay things like household incomes and population demographics. So it's not just the data that you have about your customers, but it's also possible to and very, very beneficial to overlay third-party data as well. So finally, looking at sort of the deduping, this is where identity resolution comes in. So we use things like exact matching and linking transactions and events and backwards and forwards cookie stitching to really understand who that customer is and finding the best value field for them across email, across phone address and roles. It's very, very flexible. It's very, very configurable. And then ultimately appending third-party data. So things like weather data, things like Acquia data can be appended, and also data that can be appended from their social media profiles like Facebook, for example. And what this means, as an output, once all that's done, is actually incredibly powerful. And this is an example from one of our customers, Lululemon, which is the brand which is making athletic wear. So they run 900 stores across North America, and of course they have global stores as well and a significant online presence. They have a number of data sources, so they have product feeds, they have email, they have store and loyalty data coming in, and they also have SMS data. So they do have a lot of data coming in, but the summary of the results from this particular customer recently has been, when you look at their raw data, they have 68 million records, customer records. Once that's been deduped, that goes down to actual 18 million verified customers. And then, looking at the things, as I mentioned earlier, around the cleansing and the enhancement, 140,000 records with bad phone numbers were corrected. So that might just be a formatting issue. It may be something else. And then 32,000 addresses that matched the store were cleaned up. So there's a lot of power in that. And then again, you can see that actually this will give Lululemon the ability to market a lot more effectively using a cleansed, deduped, and reliable source of data. So the other thing that this gives this customer is much greater accuracy in identifying who actually their top 10% of their customers are and what their lifetime value is. And I'll just go into that a little bit more on the next slide. So if we look at a buy account without identity resolution and with, you can see that there has an impact. It's a 20% impact, which sounds quite good. And you can see things that, for example, the revenue per customer goes from understanding that this customer has a revenue per customer of $90 to 106. That's significant. But the real value comes in looking at the top 10% of those customers. So again, if we look here at the buy account of top 10% of customers, we have 793,000 without identity resolution, and that falls to 436,000. So instead of thinking that we have nearly 800,000 customers to send information to and to manage in a certain way and to provide offers and discounts and marketing strategy, that we actually only have 400,000. But the real piece here is that the revenue per customer there is actually increased from $525 per customer from $289. So what that tells us is these customers are actually spending significantly more than the organization had assumed previously, and that can make a big impact to the marketing strategy. And what this means from the customer's end is actually really positive as well. So with the unified data and with the right messaging coming out to them, they're happier, they're spending more, they're feeling more connected with the brand, and ultimately there's less complaints and less churn. So as an organization, you can start to move towards delivering those kind of experiences that customers love, the kind of Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Netflix experiences that we've all grown to expect. And ultimately, from a strategy point of view, customers want those experiences, and the future belongs to those organizations that can deliver these experiences and deliver them at scale. So as I said earlier, for me, this is one of the most important superpowers that should be top priority for businesses looking to grow today. It's essential to have the right foundations in place. to deliver these seamless experiences. We know that it's complex to do this. Businesses build their customer databases, they're scaling across regions, they're expanding with new products and services and launching new brands to market. So to have the data foundations in place and to become a data-centric and a customer-centric business is critical, and that enables you to scale fast without compromising data and also without compromising the customer experience. So the goal here is to, as I mentioned earlier, maximize customer lifetime value. And for those of you who are not familiar with customer lifetime value, it's just looking at the average purchase value and looking at the average purchase frequency to determine the customer value, and then multiplying that by the customer lifespan to determine the customer lifetime value. So we will be providing these slides after the presentation, so don't feel like you have to take this all in now, but you can see that things like the transactional systems feeding into CDP, all those customer interactions feeding into CDP, appending the demographic data into CDP, actually it makes a lot of sense. And then if you have a powerful CDP with some of those features I mentioned, so the identity resolution and the machine learning to create those intelligent segments, to provide those next best actions, you know, you really are putting your customer at the heart of everything that you do, and enabling whoever needs to use that data through whichever channel, so transaction systems or customer interaction, digital advertising or call centers, you know, even in store, they have access to the customer record. So you know, that's a very powerful capability. So just, I guess, really in summary and to wrap it all up, and again, per Rachel's previous comments, looking forward to questions and feedback. But the real value in CDP is to remove the data silos across your organization to create clean and holistic data set for the execution channels. To do this properly, you need the strong identity resolution capability. CDP is powerful because it does allow different areas of your business access to data that they didn't necessarily have. So you often hear that it's being democratizing data across the organization. CDP is not just for large enterprises. So any business with customers' data residing in silos will benefit from a customer data platform. There are benefits for both customers and business. And to start small and scale. So that's it for today. And I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully we'll see you in the next webinar, and I'll pass over to Rachel for closing and any questions.
Yes, thank you, Phil. Okay, we do have a few questions actually from the floor. So, okay, is address validation or lookup an included service with our CDP, or is this an add-on? Phil, would you like to?
Sure, that's an included service in the CDP.
So the next question is, does Acquia CDP ship with any third-party data sources included out of the box to enhance customer data?
Sorry, could you just repeat that, Rachel?
Okay, does our CDP, Acquia CDP, ship with any third-party data sources included out of the box to enhance customer data? That means, do we provide third-party data?
It's not shipped with third-party data sources, but we have an open architecture which enables a simple connection to any number of third-party data sources.
Okay, so I have someone who just raised their hand. Would you like to type your question in the chat window? Okay, we'll just wait for that. So, okay, I just sent out a survey link for you guys to provide your feedback on this session. So feedback is always welcome so that we can improve on our content that we provide to you guys. So please do let us know what you think from the link I sent out. All right. So I hope we answered your questions, and we're still open for any questions that you guys still have. Okay. So the next session that we have will be on the 19th of November, which is in 2 weeks' time. Okay. I have one question here. So is there a working example case study on CDP? Do we have one?
Yeah, we have a number of case studies of CDP. So We have a number on our website, which you can refer to in our case studies. And I guess if you're looking for something specific, very welcome to reach out to Rachel or myself and let me know, or let us know what you're looking for, and we're happy to provide some more information. But we have many customers using CDP with some very successful results, and we'd be delighted to share some of that information with you.
Yep. Okay, very good questions. So waiting on for you guys to come in with any questions at all. All right, so if there's no more questions that we have from the ground, I'd like to thank you guys for your time. And the slides and the recording of this webinar will be posted on our website. Again, and the email will be sent to you guys as well. So be sure to look out for it. Thank you guys again for joining us.
Thank you.
So yeah, see you guys soon. Bye.